Hey guys, what's up? I have a new Imperialism video here for you. I didn't get to do a lot of the extra stuff that I like to do, but it's coming down to crunch time and it's time to put these videos out. So I changed the mic settings. Hopefully it's a little bit better. Took some feedback from you guys about how to make these a little better. So hopefully we can keep going on this. And it will sound just better and hopefully be better for you. So without further ado, we're going to go through imperialism. There's some key things to know. The big one is going to be the Berlin Conference. That one's brought up all throughout the unit, talking about the colonization of Africa when we talk about this. The industrialization, we need to remember that from the last video and throughout the classes, how the factories needed resources to fuel them to start producing all these materials and all these things. The Opium Wars, another big issue here with China, and how the English funneled opium into China, the Meiji Restoration when it comes to Japan's modernization, and then spheres of influence, again, concerning China. These are some key things if you're going to fill out that little sheet that you can put down, and of course you can add on to it as we keep going. So, what factors fueled imperialism? Like, why did it even happen? The big one is going to be nationalism. I'm going to keep saying the big one for the first one, I'm sorry. A key here is nationalism. Nationalism is when a nation thinks that you're bigger than or better than another nation, and you can you can use your power over them. Another factor is going to be imperialism, the Industrial Revolution. These factories needed different raw materials, from rubber to oil to coal, and they use these raw materials to then produce goods to then sell to the colonies that they were taking over, or within their own countries and other European nations as well. And last but not least, this is kind of a weird way to explain it, but there was a religious or racial or cultural superiority complex that was going on at the time, known as the white man's burden as well, where certain cultures thought that they had the right to do these things and that they also necessarily needed to do them to spread either the religion, to spread to do what's the white man's burden, or that their culture was just superior to others. So by going there and showing them how to run and how to become strong capitalists, they were doing good. On the right here, you see a picture of the English Empire at its peak in different places that have been colonized by it. It's a lot. It's a lot. Keep in mind, I don't know if you can see my mouse here, but England is this little country right here, and they ended up having all of this as their own colonies throughout the world. I don't know about the Antarctica. I didn't notice that until I started recording. I don't think anyone owns Antarctica. I mean, I got nothing. But and why not here is another great question. I don't know. But another day. So when we're talking about these places, there's two of them that are main for this unit. I included the Americas as well, but the first one's going to be Africa. This all kicks off when King Leopold of Belgium transforms the Congo into a massive plantation. You just take an entire country and you subjugate its people, and he turned it into a massive plantation, and they produced a lot of rubber. What this leads to is going to be the scramble for Africa, or the organized division of America to European colonies. Oh, there's a typo there. Ooh, we're going to keep going. Of America to European colonizers. So instead of having wars or fighting over certain territories, that they just sat down, had a meeting, and put into legislation where the lines were, where they couldn't be crossed as far as who was going to colonize and subjugate what country. Now, this had lasting effects into Africa today, where a lot of Africa speaks different languages. People from Africa can tend to speak multiple languages, 3 to 4 to 5, and it'd be very normal because, if you're in French West Africa, you might speak a local dialect, you might speak Afrikaans, and you also might speak French, and maybe even English, and some places are starting to learn Russian. So it had some lasting effects there. And then apartheid is going to become a symbol of colonialism enduring into modernity until the 1990s. So in South Africa, you had the English basically doing racial segregation to the extreme on the Africans, and this lasted all the way until Nelson Mandela was able to do his movement and end apartheid through legislation. That's a really quick summary of it. That's not everything with Africa. I didn't really mention the Boer Wars. It doesn't tend to be on the Regents. What tends to be on the Regents is going to be the scramble for Africa and how Africa was divvied up without talking about tribal lines. We have some maps that I'll show you later on that will help with this. And by later on, I mean right now. So on the left here, you can see this is Africa. The Cape Colony still exists with the British, but a lot of these different tribal areas and territories existed at this time, which were not European, besides Algeria here. Um, you can see how there's not necessarily straight borders. They're very there's areas that are not it's not doesn't look like if you were to look at a map of the states, like the western states where everything's boxed, or like the map on the right. Let's just look on the right. This is how they divvied up those areas into their own countries and what languages they speak. So you would have instances where, in this area where there's so many different cultures, they're splitting up into different countries of colonizers. And we would see a problem with this in the future here in the Congo, where Rwanda genocide takes place, because these colonizers use these different tribal differences or social inequalities to their advantage to keep the peoples under control. So you can see how greatly Africa changed before 1880 to just before World War One. Yeah, just that's a wild map there. I do love a good map. Yeah, we'll keep going. That's some good stuff there, though. You want some cool names for some kids? I mean, you got Kong. That's a pretty cool one. I like Sokoto. That's a sick name. Yeah, there's some cool ones. All right, here we go. And then the other place we're going to talk about is Asia. So Asia, East Asia, it's a very large area. There's a lot of countries, but we mainly focus on two of them at this point. The first one's going to be China. China, when it starts off at this time, is very powerful, has a great trade relation with nobody because they don't want to. They have a lot of goods, and they mainly only traded tea out when they wanted to at the price that they wanted to. This made England uncomfortable. They had a trade deficit with China. In order to make up for that deficit, they began to trade through opium, which the Chinese country begins getting addicted to. Not all of them, of course, but a significant amount. And then that trade balance starts to shift in the British's favor, where they're receiving more money than they're sending out. And China gets a whiff of this, and they decide to stop it. And they have the opium war over it, which they lose, which solidifies China as not only going to become colonized by Europe, but also going to be used to having a lot of opium in the country as well. During all this, the Boxer Rebellion takes place to try to rid the outsiders from China. And in this picture up here on the right, we can see that we watched that video clip from the old video where the Americans and all these were defending the palace, and then all the countries come in last minute, like heroically. The cavalry arrives just in time, as always, and puts down the Boxer Rebellion, and China will remain kind of a second-class nation. It sounds weird to say, but China will not be a major world trader for a decent amount of time after this. Now, Japan watches all this happen with China, and Commodore Perry visits Japan and convinces them to trade with the outside world. And not only do they convince the Japanese to trade with the outside world, it leads to what's called the Meiji Restoration, which is the modernization of Japan. Japan starts taking leaps forward in the future. As far as technologies, as far as ideology, as far as military tactics, as far as government organization, Japan starts taking leaps. They do what some countries took hundreds of years, and China didn't even achieve until much later, in just a few decades, a couple decades. And they also, because of this, they kind of get these traits. Let me go back here. Japan will get these traits here that we see that fuel imperialism. They'll become nationalistic. They'll have an industrial revolution within themselves, and they'll have a superiority complex. And they decide to go and test it out. Test it out in Russia, and they go to war with Russia over some certain territories, and they beat the Russians' butt. And they kind of prove to the world, especially Europeans, that they can stand their own and that they can also play the game that they're playing. Oh, how he's screaming! He's gonna scream until I let him in. I gotta let him in. I'm gonna cut this video, and I'll be right back. Oh, it's gonna be a bummer. All right, I'll be right back. All right, we're back, and Howie's on my lap. So if he causes any problems, I'm gonna yell probably because he's got sharp claws. Actually, I did cut him last night, but he might, we might hear some purring. Oh, he's getting up. Okay, so I'll just show him to you real quick. Howie, do you have anything you want to say to the microphone? I don't even know if you can see him. Oh, you do smell so good still. You're such a good boy. All right. So I was talking about Russia and the Japanese war, and the Japanese going to war, and the Japanese beating the Russians. That will lead to. He's gonna jump around now. Oh, I have sausage here. God damn it! Don't ask why I have sausage in my room. I was eating lunch. All right, we're gonna cut it here again so I can hide my lunch from my cat. Friggin' cat. All right. You know what? He's staying in here. I'm locking him in here. All right, here we go. So let's move on. Let's move on because this is obviously this is a bad point. The Americas, they don't tend to ask about this a whole lot on the Regents. Sometimes with Cuba, mainly later on in history, not so much at this time. But America attempts imperialism, and I also kind of don't like talking about America in global history, but we'll keep going. Oh my gosh, come on up here, come on. So America attempts imperialism. They do it pretty well. Teddy Roosevelt ends up helping America defeat the Spanish in Cuba. America will take over Puerto Rico. America will help Panama get independence and then take control of the Panama Canal, and then operate that for over 100 years. And the Americans also go to war with Mexico and take over the territories of Mexico. So we have California and Arizona and all these different territories. It's really short. It's not. Hopefully, it's not going to be in the regions. I don't think it is. It really isn't a year. It's not as much as other ones in here, but we'll see. Oh, my political cartoons didn't copy over. I'm going to cry. Oh, let me see if I can find my political cartoons. Where are they? Where are you? Political cartoons. There they are. Yeah, so they're on this, but they're not on this, bro. What? What? They're white? You can see it there. Clicking boxes. Bruh. I'm gonna cry. And this one didn't have its pictures either. What is going on? I'm gonna restart this presentation. Let's see if it just like crashes this whole stream. And now how he's scratching to get out. This is my life. You wonder why I look so stressed and I'm losing hair? Let's do this. So China is being, in this political cartoon on the right, you can see China being divided up and sliced up into its spheres of influence by the different countries that took it over. You can see there's Germans with the pointy hat. You can see the Russian. You can see that there's a French person right here. That actually might be the Russian. This might be French. I'm not sure. These are starting to get a little blurry here in Japan. You got the boxer up here with the typical boxer braids. That's an identifying trait of the boxers. And you can see that they're cutting up China into their own little spheres to operate on their own, right? On the left, we have the political cartoon of Cecil Rhodes spreading the influence over Africa. Okay. Cecil Rhodes also the same guy, White Man Burden, so not a good guy, right? Now the enduring issues. This is where these show up a lot. For the Regents is going to be in the enduring issues parts. There's so many enduring issues that deal with imperialism, and imperialism is a big part of modern life. So let's break through it. Social inequality or human rights. I mean, you have apartheid. You have the treatment of the indigenous peoples. If the Congolese were not able to get the amount of rubber that they wanted, that the Dutch needed them to get that day, they would just lop off their arm. Awful human rights violation, of course, right? Conflict. You have the Opium Wars. You have the Spanish-American War. You have the Boer War. You have the Russian-Japanese War. There's a lot of conflicts at this time. Innovations. Now, it's not like the imperialism was innovative, but like the innovations during the Industrial Revolution fed the desire for resources that they would then feed these innovations and machines to produce goods, which is also another enduring issue, which is scarcity. If Africa had the valuable rare resources that all the countries wanted and needed, from diamonds to now we need lithium, right? And this scarcity that within England, which has, sheep and potatoes and coal, they had to leave England and go somewhere to get their things for their industry, and they didn't want to pay a fair price for it. So they went and they took it from Africa. Power. European countries exercise their dominance over others, and power plays a huge role in them taking over those countries. And then interconnectedness is another one, because these colonies and connections still exist today. For example, once every, I think, 4 years, maybe 10 years, the English Empire the English Empire, yikes, don't like that. The UK hosts the Commonwealth Games, which is comprised of every country from the English Commonwealth besides America, or like which was once a colony of England, which is kind of funny because it's just like a bunch of games of of colonies. But these places are still being misused for their resources. The best example is lithium mines today in Africa. Like the Tesla factories, they've proven to be terrible to the workers and also super unhealthy. Diamonds, you have blood diamonds from like the movies you've watched with Miss Yato. These colonies and the economic connections are still exist today because the resources still exist today for a lot of these places. That's where we're gonna end it. This was like a really hectic one, and it was fast, and I apologize for the amount of ups and downs of it, but we got through it, and be I will be showing you, or I will be giving you the next one soon, which is gonna be World War One. And imperialism has a direct impact on World War One, so it should be pretty good, and it's my favorite topic. Stay safe. I'll see you guys soon. You're ready for this test. If you're watching this video, you're extra ready for this test. You'll get it. You're gonna kill it. Let's get this bread. Thank you. Peace and love.